Empires are not born from ambition, they are born from failure. And 5,000 years ago, the cities of Sumer were failing. Southern Mesopotamia was not a unified land, it was a chain of irrigated islands. Uruk, Bush, Kish. Each city was its own universe, each ruled by its own god, each surviving by forcing the rivers Tigris and Euphrates into obedience. For centuries this worked. The temples organized labor, the canals fed the fields, the walls protected identity. No one imagined a single ruler controlling the entire valley. That idea would have sounded like blasphemy. But success created density. Density created friction. And friction began to break the system. The rivers were not stable. They wandered. A city could wake up one generation and find the river shifting away from its intake canals. Water moved. Cities could not. To survive, canals had to stretch farther upstream. But stretching upstream meant crossing into another city's territory. And water, in Mesopotamia, was life. If your neighbor diverted it, your crops died. If your crops died, your god had failed. Lagash and Amma fought for over a century, not for glory, but for intake valves. The wars were constant, but they were never decisive. You could win a battle. You could not erase a city. The system was locked in a zero-sum trap. Every gain created a rival. Every canal created a border. Then came the second enemy, salt. Irrigation in a flat basin leaves residue. Year after year, the soil whitened. Wheat failed first, barley survived longer. But even barley began to weaken. The temples demanded more labor. The kings demanded more soldiers. The same man could not dig a canal and hold a spear. The system was stretching past its limits. The cities were brilliant. They invented writing. They invented law. They invented urban life. But they were designed for isolation. And isolation was no longer possible. Trade stretched far beyond the floodplain. Copper from the east, timber from the north, stone from distant mountains. Caravans crossed territories no single city could protect. The world was expanding. The city-state was not. By the late 3rd millennium BCE, the valley was exhausted. Too crowded, too competitive, too fragile. The cities were powerful but obsolete. The river no longer needed rival temples. It needed coordination. It needed scale. And scale requires domination. That solution did not come from the ancient centers. It came from the margins. A man named Sargon built a city that has never been found. And instead of inheriting a throne from a god, he built authority from grain and steel. His revolution was simple and terrifying. He professionalized war. Instead of seasonal farmers returning home for harvest, he fed soldiers year-round. 5,400 men ate bread daily before him. This was not poetry. It was logistics. A standing army meant permanent power. Permanent power meant permanent taxation. To fund it, Sargon created land for service contracts. The ilkum. Soldiers received land from the crown, not the temple. Their survival depended on the king. Loyalty shifted from god to state. Then he did something radical. He tore down city walls, not just to conquer, but to erase the island system. The river valley became one economic zone. He standardized weights. The gur became universal. Grain could move without friction. Trade became fluid. For the first time in history, the river was managed as a single machine, and for a moment it worked. The border wars stopped. The canals were coordinated. The chaos quieted. Sargon had solved the formation problem. He had scaled governance. He had created the first empire. But scale is expensive. 5,000 soldiers do not just eat bread. They consume the future. To keep the army fed, surplus had to move. Grain flowed north. Silver flowed south. Everything became linked. If harvest failed in one region, the entire machine felt it. The empire was no longer many small systems. It was one massive organism, and organisms must eat constantly. Sargon had solved fragmentation, but he had replaced it with dependency. The machine required growth, it required surplus, it required stability. And stability in Mesopotamia was always temporary. The Akkadian Empire was born not from conquest alone, but from systemic exhaustion. It was humanity's first attempt to outrun geography, to replace local gods with central authority, to turn rivers into revenue. And for one generation it succeeded. But in solving the problem of the city-state, Sargon created a system so interconnected that when it eventually failed, it would fail everywhere at once. In our next episode, we enter the heart of the machine, where power becomes absolute, where the king becomes a god, and where the cost of order begins to exceed what the earth can provide. The islands are gone, the empire has begun, but the soil is already turning white.